Welcome back to the Eye of Jupiter podcast. I'm your host, Tom Franklin, and today we finally got him. I've been trying to get this guy on for a month and a half, 2 months. He is known on the chats and the lives. Once again, you can see the lives every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I always have very fun and interesting guests when we discuss everything under the sun, or behind it, or beyond. So you know him. This guy's always on there, giving me interesting questions, interesting remarks, always killing it on the. He is Fisher of Spam, and he has a lot of stories that he's been wanting to share with me. And today we're going to get into some things that he wants to talk about. You can also, so if you, first of all, just do some housekeeping. If you find yourself always coming back to the Eye of Jupiter, please do me a favor: like, subscribe, share, comment, all those good things that help me out. You can also find me on Rumble. You can also find me on Spotify. There's also a members section that you can click on, and you can get an extra episode early every month. And you also get a free, nice little desktop thing if you'd like to have one personalized for you as well. So that's all done. Without any further delay, let's welcome to the Eye of Jupiter podcast, Fisher O Spam.
Hey everybody, how we doing?
We're doing, dude. Thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for coming on.
I'm glad we could finally make it happen, Jupes.
Jupes, you're the one that calls me Jupes.
That is me.
Because I always see, because my buddy, his name is Joep. He's Joep. He's from the Netherlands, and being in Germany, they say Japan, like for Japan. So I always say, oh, he calls me Joep, but it's Jupes. He gives me a nickname. Oh, fantastic.
You'll have to forgive me. I'm a little bit Southern, man. We just want to simplify everything when we talk.
You don't sound Southern to me. You should listen to my episode with Tim Dills. That's Southern. Or I can't think of the other guy's name, but he had a Confederate flag behind him, and he was deep fried Southern, man. So this has been a long time coming, dude.
Yeah. I'm glad that we can finally make it happen.
Absolutely. So for the Eye of Jupiter listeners and watchers, the Eye as we call them, do me a favor, tell me a little bit about yourself, and if you're promoting anything, could you tell us where we can find you?
Okay. Well, let's see here. Of course, on chat, I am Fisher of Spam. Let's see a little bit about me. I'm just a fairly normal guy. I'm a welder by trade. Done all kinds of crazy stuff. So
that's me. I'm a welder by trade.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
What kind of welding do you do?
It used to be TIG welding. I used to do a lot of
that's what I am.
surgical tools and implants, but now I'm a manager over a place that does a bunch of MIG welding, and we build storm shelters here.
Oh, so, good. Oh, yeah. That's awesome. So you can inspect welds. Do you throw? I don't know how they do it in the States, man. Do they throw the welds into the X-ray machine?
It depends if it's called for by the print or not. It just depends on the contract.
Yeah, like when I went to school in Germany, dude, because you have to be able to, at the end, the last weld is a pipe at 45, and you have to go up. And you
6G, yeah.
What the hell they call that? The Wurzel knot, which is the root knot, the root weld, the I don't know what they call it in English, the Zwischenlager, the between layer, and then the Oberlager, the top layer. And there's dudes that they can do that figure eight. You never seen the people that do figure eight on? Oh man, with the ceramic. Oh man, there's a bad. You probably can do that.
I can.
All right.
But yeah, here it'd be a root pass, hot pass, followed by filler caps. So
root pass, hot pass, filler cap. All right, interesting enough. So you're a manager at a company that does that. You're a welder by trade. What else? What else should we know about you?
Not much. I mean, I'm pretty normal, pretty average. I mean, just dude.
Even with the Amish beard, dude? Even with the Amish beard, that's normal? Okay.
Is it really? Come on.
It's a little bit, dude. A little bit of Jacob Yoder there to call back to an old movie.
Amish people don't have long hair, bro.
Are you a metalhead too?
Yeah.
Okay, me too. Big time. Oh, you should check out my band, dude. It's been a year since I did it, but they're called La Mera. And the other one is you have to go through Riff Rumble Madness. It's called Inertia. And the first one is like a groove death metal, and the other one's technical death metal. I'm the vocalist on both. And the first one, I am a guitarist as well. So
that's cool. I'm a bass player,
dude. Oh, no kidding. We're gonna have to do. We might have to do some shit, man. I just gotta get myself a guitar again. All right, dude. So,
all right.
Let's get. You said you want to start. You wanted to start with a backstory. So go ahead and enlighten us.
All right. So the main thing I'm going to talk about is the Fife, Alabama UFO flap, and then my experiences with it. So when you do a Google search, you can find the official timeline of everything by the guy that was hired by the Alabama Cattlemen Association to do the investigation on all the cattle mutilations that were going on in the late 80s, early 90s. Dude's name is Greg Oliphant III. All right. When you look at the timeline of everything that's going on, essentially there's a bunch of cattle mutilations happening. People are seeing UFOs in the sky, like on the regular, and it's not really stigmatized in the news, kind of interestingly. And you can pretty much find all that you really want to about it, and lots of descriptions and stuff by witnesses and the such. But long story short, I'll try to give the cliff notes so I can get into my stuff. Is essentially his conclusion at the end of it before he died was it was just the government doing tests basically to see if there was mad cow disease going on in our herds down here. Essentially, that's the conclusion that he came to.
What do you mean by down here? You're in Alabama too.
Yeah, I live in
Okay.
Fife. We are. I'm.
You live in Fife.
Yeah.
All right, dude. So you're the guy. All right, let's go.
All right. But an interesting thing also is that essentially he and his partner, which used to be the chief of police of Albertville, start being able to get on site of where things start to happen pretty much like before any news breaks about it or before anybody starts contacting like anybody official to come out and say what's going on. And the question that I've always had from his timeline is how was he able to do that? And in fact, I talked to the chief of police of Fife, Alabama, who's retired now, and he said the same thing. Like, how is that possible? It's weird. They would go in there and they would not do things according to standard and mess up the whole research area. And so he was not very happy about that. But at the last experience that Mr. Oliphant had, if I remember correctly, they saw a black unmarked helicopter leaving an area where some mutilations went down, and they were able to follow it. And they were trying to hail air traffic control and all that stuff and never got any answer. This is a black unmarked helicopter. But they follow it and they follow it and they follow it, and they eventually follow it all the way to the Anniston Army Depot. So I'm assuming this is where he's getting the government stuff. But once I tell you like the background of my family story, it's going to kind of clear things up a little bit.
All right.
So before everybody starts seeing the helicopters and they're still seeing the UFOs, essentially, my father-in-law is coming home from work real late at night. Okay. And he's driving down the back road and he's going past his cousin's house. And he sees a light out in the field. And his first thought was, oh no, cousin's combine tractor, whatever, is broke down. Let me go out there, see if he needs help, see if I need to go wake dad up or, whatever. Go check on his cousin. So he goes out there and as he's approaching, he's realizing that this is just a light in the field. There's no tractor, no nothing. It is one of these UFOs that they're talking about in the news. And it's funny. His exact words to me were, how many times in life do you get to see a UFO? So let's go check it out. So he proceeds to go and check it out. He goes out there and he goes to touch it. And right as he's fixing to put his hand on it, a beam of light shoots out and hits him in the head and knocks him out cold. And he doesn't wake up till the next morning.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he wakes up.
This is who again? Your father-in-law?
Father-in-law, yes.
Okay.
So he wakes up the next morning. He's freaked out. I don't know why he doesn't go home first, but he goes to his father first, okay? So his father, he is a very, 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 very important person at the Anniston Army Depot, as well as Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville. So important that he has his own helicopter crew that takes him back and forth between the bases multiple times a day.
Okay, how far away is Fife from Huntsville?
Fife is about an hour and a half drive from to
Because that's not
Huntsville.
that far. That's not that far. Okay.
Yeah, and to Anniston, it's the same distance, about an hour and a half.
Okay.
So he goes to his dad. All right. He explains to his father what all happens. And at the end of it, his father's like, "Don't worry. I hate that this happened to you, but I'll fix it." He's like, "How are you going to fix it?" He's like, I know that you're my dad, you're my hero, you can do everything, you're Superman, right? But you can't fix this, a UFO. How? And he's like, "Don't worry, I'll handle it." And at that point in time, in the official timeline of the Fife stuff, is when it begins to change. All of a sudden, you see, instead of UFOs, you see black unmarked helicopters, hence the one that came from Anniston Army Depot. And you start seeing news broadcasts, like people saying, "Hey, in the nightly news, there's going to be special forces outside in the dark and probably in your yards doing some training exercise. Do not shoot at them, please." On the nightly news, this is what's going
Oh my
down.
God. Oh my God.
So things start to change, right? And then the other question that kind of arises from it is, how do they know to be at certain places early before any reports are made? Well, my conclusion is, when you look at Mr. Oliphant's partner, the chief of police from Albertville, he's a master mason. So is my grandfather-in-law. So if you want to make notes get passed around using an unofficial channel so that there's no paper trail so that you can be there, what better way to do it than go through the
Right.
lodge?
Right.
So yeah, that's basically what happened
That's
there in a nutshell.
that's crazy. So how long does this continue on? Is it still kind of sporadically happening, or is it like kind of turned down, or what happened?
Well, after all this started happening, it was interesting because the grandfather, he had like a schedule. He'd be like, "Hey, y'all don't go to the farm tonight. There's going to be special forces training out there." And
Oh, okay.
he showed people. He's like, "Look, see those helicopters? Look what they're doing."
Oh my
So there
God.
was something going on the property. What it was, I don't know.
That's so odd.
But
And that it was in that period of the late '80s, early '90s. It's quite a long time ago. Was it like 30 years, a little more than 30 years ago?
yeah,
And yeah, because like I told you, that I heard about Fight Alabama actually from one of my favorite comedians who ever exists was Bill Hicks, and he
right.
kind of he's a comedian, so he made jokes about it. And so when you wrote me, because full disclosure, guys, he wrote me an email, and it was quite the read. I got about halfway through it, but I told him it's not because I don't want to read it. It's just I enjoy the natural
Right.
reaction of people telling me what they want to tell me, of course. So that's Fife. Is anything more you want to add to that, or?
Let's see here. I could say that, because technically all the stuff that happened on their farm was a little city outside of Fife. Because it happened all around. Fife just gets the publicity. The guy that was doing
It's
the
the
news.
hub. It's the hub. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd imagine. Yeah.
essentially, right. So this all happened like in a little city outside called Dawson, and it's not even a city. It's like there's a 4-way and a gas station, followed by a bunch of dirt roads. It's out there,
Okay. All right.
BFE,
Okay.
right? And you know, I, I I grew up hearing all the stories about Fife. I grew up hearing, once I got with my wife, I heard about their stuff, and I didn't really know the full extent until I talked to her father. And technically, even during the Fife stuff on the property that I'm at right now, where I live, my family's property, we had a UFO touchdown in the pasture. And shoot, I remember growing up as a little kid going out there and seeing it when I'm walking back towards the woods, a big old ring of grass or ring of dirt where no grass grew.
Oh
So
my
I mean,
God.
it was
Okay.
all over the area. And
Do you think there's any connection with like, because Huntsville is one of the NASA type headquarters along with Houston and Cape Canaveral and probably multiple other locations. I know there's also one down in DC where I'm from Baltimore area. So we I I actually put fence when I was a teenager in the summer. I put fence around a supercomputer building for Fort Meade, which is where NSA is. So it was a highly like like super like protected with security fence with a special curve in the top, cemented in, had mini mesh in the top where we had to put actually bolts and nuts instead of like like tie. Well, I can't think of the word anymore. And so like it's so interesting that there's that connection, and I don't know why it would be Fife in particular, unless you have some type of insight. But being that it's so close to the Huntsville and NASA, the NASA one of that NASA headquarters, at least the training area, as far as I remember, is a very interesting thing.
yeah, I mean, if you want to do some stuff with some cows and not get, not have a whole lot of people see what you're doing, it's a
Hmm.
pretty good place to do it.
Okay,
Honestly,
why
that's
do you
the
think it's
only.
cows? Why do you think cows? What's your
Ah,
personal opinion?
well, my personal opinion basically is going to reflect into something that I was going to bring up a little bit later. When
Sure.
I had my first CE5 experience,
Hmm.
um, the being that I contacted first essentially told me that grays were nothing more than biological meat suits. And I think that they use parts, organic matter, mostly cows, because we got so many of them, to build these organic meat suits. That's my
So kind of like
theory.
a so kind of like an avatar per se.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Interesting. I would
but we'll
say
get
so they're like taking in and checking with and culturing, and that
mm,
makes sense, man. That makes a lot
kind
of
of like
sense. It's
3D printing a body, I guess you could say. That's what I
right.
think.
And if like adhere to the concept like things being so far away with the light years. I mean, the closest one is Alpha Centauri. That binary star system was 4 light years away. That's kind of ridiculous to think that they would come here. So there would be some type of interdimensional concept. This is what I'm adhering to kind of at the moment. And if you're going to pass through a portal, that might be a dangerous concept. We do the same thing supposedly. NASA sends, like rovers to Mars and, the Voyager 1 and 2. So they would do the same thing for safety reasons. So that kind of like connects together there.
Yeah, I mean, it seems logical. I mean, but ultimately, I mean, I don't know. I
Yeah,
can't
who
say,
does?
but
Who does?
I
But that's
don't
what we're
know.
going to try to do. There's a lot of
Yeah,
infighting in the communities right now. If you've kind of been peripheral of it, and I don't know why that is. I don't know what that is, man. I don't understand it. I just hope it doesn't come this way. We'll see what happens.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm not worried about it.
no, I'm not
How
going to
you
worry about it,
been?
man.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
I'm a big guy. I'm an old man. So what else would you like to share? Like I said, the email that you sent me was,
Sure.
definitely a mini story
Yeah.
and itself an outline of your life's experiences. And like,
Yeah.
what's the one that you want to get into? I'll let you go ahead and lead, man.
All right. So I'm going to talk about my experience when I was living out there in Dawson. Okay. So
Okay.
essentially, I'm living out there on the farm. We're in a little FEMA trailer, me and the wife. We're saving money while we're in college, and essentially, I've always been interested like in this subject, right? And I used to go down so many different avenues to try to figure this out. And eventually I stumble upon a Joe Rogan podcast where he had Stephen Greer on.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
And
think I actually remember that one.
I'm sure. Um, so I hear about CE5. So I'm like, okay, this sounds interesting. It seems very new agey and hippy dippy. Like I want to get bendy when I talk like about it. You know what I mean? But like I don't know, man. But I'm like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. And first of all, disclaimer, folks in the audience, please, for the love of God, don't try it because
That's what I've heard.
my
That's what
life
I've heard.
went insane for years. But
Okay.
anyways, we'll get there. We'll get there. All right. So I'm gonna talk about like my first CE5 contact. I'll skip the rest because realistically, I don't know why, but the majority of my experiences talking with these beings, I can't remember. Like it's like they won't let me remember. But the first one, I remember the most, and I'll give you some cliff notes. So I remember asking it like, you know, first of all, like basic stuff, what do you look like? And essentially it shows me a picture of um, like the Tro dude that we often refer to as reptilians. That's like a speculative evolution thing, except it's way taller than like the pictures that we have here, but it looks very similar. Um, I asked it like, hey, how's come we hear about these stories about sometimes people having good experiences with extraterrestrials or bad experiences, like what's up with that? And essentially it told me, that the concept of good and evil is very primitive. You don't need to think in terms like that. I'm like, okay,
Okay.
explain. He said, um, life is more about shades of gray. He said, what is good for the ant might be bad for the human. What is good for the human might be bad for the ant. It's all about perspective. And first of all, I reject that totally. I mean, because first of all, how many weirdos do we know that would be like if an alien's like, hey, we need to save our race. Can you help hybridize with us? How many weirdos would sign up for that?
Yeah.
Plenty, plenty,
Plenty.
right? So like I reject that totally. That's ridiculous. But, and I asked him other things, he was, like, what do you think about humans? And his essentially was like, you know, you guys need to really think about your evolutionary path. You need to not merge with AI. That's a terrible route to go. You need
How
to
long ago was this? How long ago
this
was this?
this was in 2014.
Okay, so AI was starting to be a concept. Okay,
Hmm.
just trying to make sure it all matches up, buddy. That's all.
Yeah. And he was basically like, look, you guys are so blessed to have so many animals and stuff on your planet. You really need to like grab DNA from them and implement them into yourselves and become the best human that you can be. Like chimpanzee muscular structure,
That's interesting because I
dogs.
already I already identify as a duck, so that's cool.
Yeah, and
I'm talking to a
essentially,
dude from Alabama, so I'm sure you understand the joke.
yeah. But I mean, just stuff like that. Like essentially turn yourself into a chimera / super soldier, right? That's what he's basically advocating for. Um, which is a crazy rabbit hole to go down anyways. But and I asked him essentially about like other beings, like I wanted to, get some perspective about some of the other aliens that we talked about, and he basically, that's what he told me about the Greys, they're basically biological meat suits, he's like, they
Okay.
can be good, they can be bad. You're not, and his words were, since they are hollow and empty, it's just as likely that there is an alien broadcasted into them as there is a demon. Those are his exact words. I'm
Whoa,
like, okay, well, first of
that's
all, that's
interesting.
disconcerting. Second of all, you have the same power as a demon. Interesting. Okay, moving on. He said that, said good stuff about like mantids. They were nice from what I recall. Uh, talked about reptilians a little bit. Talked about what was the? Oh, I asked him about Anunnaki. I was like, I really want to hear about these guys. And his words to me were, "You will hate them. You don't want to do that." I'm like, okay. I mean, I did it anyways, but I don't know. I guess
So, so when you're talking about the Anunnaki, that's the 10th planet Nibiru thing, correct?
yeah.
And so basically, with him saying "don't mess with them," he kind of agreed that it's a real thing and that the planet exists. Is that what you're thinking?
That's
Okay, because he didn't negate it and say, yeah, that don't exist at all. So okay, that's
right.
interesting.
And then let's see here. One other interesting point. was, I asked him also, like, what is your concept of God? Do you guys believe in God? And for whatever reason, he thought this was hilarious. He's like, yeah, of course. Look around you. It's like, how can you live in this existence and not believe that there's a God?
Yeah, right.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And I was like, well, on this planet, we had somebody named, and I'm fixing to say Jesus. And I remember he moved his hand like, no. And he said, I don't care to hear your theology at all. He's
Whoa.
like, yeah, he's like, I don't want to hear it. He said, but I'll tell you this. He said, if there was somebody that that teached love above all else, it's probably a good idea to follow that person. So another interesting thing is he doesn't really want to hear the name of Jesus. It's
That's
interesting. Of
interesting.
course, yeah.
That's
Like
interesting.
at that time, I just took it at face value. I mean, now I've
Yes. But the
I've changed my
implications of
mind.
that are very interesting.
Yes. So, but anyways, I mean that's essentially what I remember from that conversation. Cliff Notes version again, of course. And I talked to other things, but I'm not allowed to remember it for whatever reason. Whether that's
Okay.
them, me, I don't know. I remember a little bit of conversations with the reptilian person that I contacted,
Mhm.
and I know it was very prickly, for lack of a better word. It basically hated me and called me a pink monkey.
Okay.
Um, and the Anunnaki I talked to was actually a very interesting one, what little I can remember. It was the very last experience I had before my event happened. And I remember that it was female, basically wanted to convince me that they were our gods and that they created us. And I was like, look, I'm willing to concede that you could have created us. That's cool. But you're not God, right? And she just blew up, hated that. She's like, yes, we are. We are the gods, blah,
Oh
blah, blah.
my God.
I'm like, no, 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 no. You cannot be God. You can be little g gods. I said, I can get behind that. That makes logical sense, but you're not God. And she just wasn't having it. She was pissed, berating me, and I can't remember all of that. And and the takeaway I had after the conversation, because after that I couldn't remember anything other than just the memory of being screamed at. You know, the,
What?
the takeaway I got from it was that she was just a beautiful liar. So I don't know. I don't know.
Oh
I
my.
don't have good
Okay.
answers.
I think my first question would be like, do you believe these encounters, these contacts, to be genuine?
See, that's where I'm going next, is
Okay,
because
I didn't mean to foreshadow, but
no, 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 no.
yeah,
You're good. You're
yeah, it was just
you're,
like
you're
because
right there, man.
when you first have the experience, I imagine it's like, oh wow, what is this? And then looking into the, now I'm sure you have a different perspective, but at the time, we'll say, did you feel that to be a genuine experience that these entities, these beings were actually real?
Well, see, at the time I was like, is this really real? Is my brain just making up fanciful things? I mean, because I don't know nothing about remote viewing, astral projection. I don't know nothing about that. I remember feeling like I was a battery, if for lack of a better terms, like during it. Like I felt like my energy levels go down and down and down to the point where the conversation would end and then I'd be asleep. But I mean, I don't know. But I was like, is this real? Is this really happening? It seems like so much to be real without proof, And I tried it for like 5 nights, 4 nights, something like that. And, I was just on the fence about it the whole time. But the next night, I was not going to initiate the contact because my wife was home and she was transitioning to go back on day shift as a nurse. So she needed sleep. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to do this. She's here. She can entertain me, right? And we're sleeping in bed. And all of a sudden, we both wake up to hearing something that sounds like it's just right outside of our window. It sounds like I don't know, two critters fighting or something like that. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It was very raspy and growly, like two coons or possums or something going at it or something. I don't know. And, we both woke up and we're like, what in the world? And, I have an outside dog. She's a cow dog, and she loved to kill stuff and chase coyotes and stuff like that. Like, she was fearless. She was awesome. And I was like, oh no, I hope my dog's not outside killing my other pets, which was a family of raccoons that lived across the driveway from me, because I like those things. They would come and hang out with me when I'd drink a beer by the campfire or whatever at night. They were pretty
Looking for
cool. I was
scraps.
like,
Yeah, dude.
she'd never bothered them before, but I was like, man, I hope she ain't bothering them. I better go check. And the wife's sitting there hitting me. She's like, go outside and check the dog. I'm like, all right, I'll go check the dog. So I go out there. I'm looking around. There's nothing. No dog, no animals, no nothing. And I'm looking around. I'm calling the dog. I mean, I'm out there 10, 15 minutes, but there's nothing. Not a single sound, not a single anything. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. Went all around the buildings, went all around in the pasture. I couldn't see nothing. So I'm like, well, I'm giving up. I guess it's handled. Come back in. She's like, did you get the dog? I'm like, yeah, took care of it. Like, okay. So lay back down. It wasn't 15 minutes later, it starts up again. And this time she's just wailing on me, just hitting me. Go and get that dog. I've got to get some sleep. Like, I'm going. Just give me a second. So I get on my shoes, find a flashlight. It's just me, my flashlight, my boxers, and we're going to get this handled. We ain't going back into the house until this is handled.
Yeah,
right?
Worried about getting an uppercut from your wife. We ain't into that either.
Wailing on me good.
Yeah, that's painful.
Yeah, can be. And so I'm out there doing the same thing, looking around everywhere, all around the buildings, underneath the camper. I'm looking everywhere I know to look. And I'm out there for another 15 minutes, and there's just nothing. There is nothing anywhere. There is no sound anywhere, not even a cricket. It is just dead silence. And I'm forced to give up again because there's nothing to find. There is nothing here. Not even a cricket, not even a cicada. There's nothing. I'm like,
which is also odd, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so weird. I'm like, I just don't know. I'm going to have to give up. Hopefully this doesn't happen again. So I'm walking back. And as I'm walking up all right, so like here's the trailer. Well, hold on. Here's the trailer. I'm walking up, going to it. And then as I get right here to the corner, I look to my right, and above the tree line over there is a light in the sky. And from my perspective, it's like maybe baseball size. I mean, it looks like it's only a couple 100 feet above the trees.
What color was it? What color was it, dude?
The best way I know to describe the color is warm white, like the light bulb color.
Yeah.
Warm white, almost orange.
Okay.
And as soon as I see that, all the stories that I've heard about Fife and everything that I know that happened to her father, they just come flooding in my mind. And I'm just like, oh no. I even say out loud, I want nothing to do with whatever the heck that is. I'm out of here. So I finish going around the corner, and I'm fixing to open the door. And I don't know what convinced me to do it or the why, but I shined my flashlight up the driveway. And standing there in the road is a gigantic black shadow. And it's blacker than black. It's like, I always refer to it as like reverse predator cloak, because it's like my flashlight's not a spotlight, it's a floodlight, but it's lighting up, around it just fine. But it's almost as if it's absorbing all of the light. And this thing that I can see is, God, every bit of 7 foot tall, maybe close to 8. I mean, it's very, very tall. And I can, even though it's black, it's strangely like I can see like every single detail and outline of it, even tell depth perception in it. So, okay, so I'll give you an explanation of what it looks like. All right.
Okay.
So its head was larger, but not cartoonishly large like we see with like typical grays, right? It's not like that, but it is slightly larger. Its chin is very pointed, has a long neck. Its shoulders are flat, like very flat, and its chest comes down and looks very triangular. Like I can see its ribs, right, until it comes to its waist at the end of its rib cage, and it looks like so. Picture your skeleton hanging up in your science class, right?
Right.
Imagine just taking leather or something and just stretching it over the rib cage and down. All right. So there's no organs. It's like this thing is so skinny, I feel like I can wrap my hands around it. That goes down pelvis. It's very heart shaped, just like, a human skeletal pelvis with just skin stretched over it. We go back up to its arms. Its arms are very, very long, very skinny arms. Um, I remember the fingertips were hanging down past its knees, and I remember its fingers were like every bit of 10 inches long, at least. I mean, like crazy long. And I seem to recall it being 3 fingers and a thumb.
Oh my
Uh,
God,
we,
dude.
we go back down to its legs. All right. So now its legs are the only thing that I can see that has muscle definition to it. Very thick legs, very long, and where our ankles are, there's an extra digit that comes forward, kind of like an insect, is the best way that I know how to describe it, with a
Okay.
very large foot. Okay. Um, and that's what's standing in the middle of the road. I mean, I
What were
see
you
it.
what were you feeling when you seen that? I mean, were you just like awestruck or just terrified? What were you feeling?
Yes, all the above. I was in
All the
shock.
above.
I was in shock. I was frozen. I could not move. I was just in shock, fear, terror, just all of it.
So you were
I'm
worried
just,
about what was in the bedroom hitting you, and then you have this thing in the driveway. I'm sure that's a completely different ball of wax to make it easy.
yeah,
Holy
yeah.
shit, dude!
And so I'm just like frozen with the light on it, right? And
Yeah.
all of a sudden it turns, because it's looking away from me. It turns and looks at me, because I guess it realized everything around it was lit up, and it makes direct eye contact, and its eyes are it, it looks like its eyes are reflecting back the white light of my light, like the entire eye. Not, it's almost like it has like a lens on it or something, like over the entire eye, that's reflecting back the white light. And but strangely, like I can see like the definition of its eyebrows, I guess you could say, because I mean it turns and looks at me, and then its eyes go wide, like, oh crap, it sees me. And then it turns, and then it runs up the dirt road. And from my vantage point, I can see maybe 200 feet at best, but it clears it in a flash. I mean, it's just boom, 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 gone. And as soon as it's gone, I can move again. I'm like, oh God,
Oh my
in
God!
the
So you
house
were
now.
frozen.
Yeah, I was frozen. I was frozen. So I'm able to move. Obviously, I'm panicking. I mean, I am losing my freaking crap right now. I jump in the house. I grab my pistol. I've got, my M9 with 17 rounds, 147 grains, pure gold dot.
You are from
I,
Alabama,
I,
buddy. Yeah.
I rapid slide, man, and I am just sitting there in front of the door, and I am waiting for any noise. I don't care what it is. If I hear anything, I am unloading all 17 rounds through the walls at this thing. Thank God my wife does not snore, because she might not have made it that night.
Oh my God,
That's
dude.
how terrified I
So you were
was.
terrified. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm standing there, and I mean, it feels like an eternity. I'm just freaking out. But I mean, it was probably maybe 10 minutes, but I mean, it felt like just
When did
eternity.
this happen? When did this happen, buddy?
When?
What? Yeah, like what year or?
2014. 2014.
2014 as well. Okay.
Yeah. So this is like right after the CE5 stuff. Like
Yeah, right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah. So like instead of doing that CE5 that night, which would have been like the 5th night or whatever,
Right.
I didn't
Okay.
do it. And instead, this thing shows up.
Okay. So don't do this,
So
guys.
like I guess maybe my thoughts on is the CE5 stuff real or not is kind of being answered, because all of a sudden this thing is here. So, anyways, I'm standing there waiting to unload. And the worst part of this experience happens. I start having mind speak. And it
Oh my God,
sounds
dude.
like it's coming from the center of my brain, is the best way I know how to describe it. But yet, almost all around me, I don't know. I don't know how to explain that. I'm not sure. But it says to me in my head, if I wanted to kill you, you would already be dead. Go back to sleep. And now the worst part is, and I have, guys, I have no idea how to explain this. None at all. I was no longer in control of my body. This thing took control of me. Like a robot, I disengage the magazine, rack the slide, take the bullet out of the chamber, put everything down, and I'm fully conscious in my brain of what's going on, but I have no control of my body. And I'm screaming at myself in my head, stop, stop, don't listen to this. You can't do this. You have to stay up and protect your wife. You can't put the gun down. No, stop moving. And I'm just, after I get everything unloaded, I just walk like a robot into the bed, lay down, and then I'm out like a light.
Holy shit, dude.
Yep. Remember
That's
nothing after the fact.
crazy, dude. That's crazy. No, so because I've heard of other people doing CE5, and they've also kind of they've never said something like you said. They've hinted at like it's not necessarily a good thing because, as far as I understand, it's like a telecommunication method.
Yeah.
You're connecting with your mind, and you're like letting in, saying, go ahead and show me something. We're here. We're accepting. And you're having these experiences. And then on the 5th night, I think you said, where you said, no,
Yeah.
my wife has to sleep. This entity, I'm supposing you're thinking it's some type of visitor that maybe you've already spoken to, is now in your driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And you are completely, basically defenseless because if it can unrack your gun and take the magazine out of the bottom of the pistol, what it could just take that same gun and do something else. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Of
I
course.
mean, like I said, it was literally controlling my body. If it wanted to make me go and sewer slide, I mean, I guess it probably could have, right?
Yeah. And did you say
I don't know.
slewer? Okay, that's good.
Sewer. Like a slide
Sewer.
that
Oh,
goes
that's
into
even
the
better.
sewer. Yeah. Trying to keep it
Dude,
YouTube
thank you so
safe for
much
everybody.
because I was telling you I've been doing a lot of editing for people who say things and it's like, oh God, you guys are killing me. I got to go 3 hours through this thing. Thank you so much for finding a good ride.
No
Yeah.
problem.
So what did you do? I mean, so you woke up the next morning. Did you remember all this or did you have some
Oh,
type
yeah.
of like, oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. When I woke up that next morning, it was in a straight up panic. I mean, I bolted straight up like, oh my God, where's it at? Where's my gun?
Were you
I
sweating or
gotta
anything?
pee.
Were you
What?
sweating or anything? Were you sweating or anything?
Oh
Were you
yeah.
having any
Oh
type
yeah.
of
Oh yeah.
okay?
I mean, I was
And you had
freaking
to
out,
pee too. And you
and I
had to
had to
pee
pee.
too, like
I
bad.
had to pee. Like, oh my God, it's got to go now.
Also, so like while you were sleeping, you were subconsciously, at least in that however that's dream to dream, like panicking because if you panic a lot, you're gonna pee a lot. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
set the
Yeah.
set the feel for what people when people watch this that they understand like this is legit shit.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was probably the best pee I've ever had in my life. I mean, it was pretty good.
Wait till you get to my age. You'll look back at that one even more fondly.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, I mean, like, I was just freaking out. Thank God I had to go to college. I mean, that day, because I did not want to be.
Did you explain this to your wife?
I did. and she was
Okay.
like, she was accepting of it because she knows like the stories like with her father and everything, but she was just kind of like, I don't want to talk about it because she had
Right.
experience too when she was a kid. So for her, it was kind of like, I believe you, I love you. I'm gonna put up a slight wall because I don't need you triggering me. Are you gonna be okay though? I'm like, I think,
Oh, what a sweetheart.
yeah.
Oh, she's awesome, dude. All right. Other than the punching, I think she's great.
I mean, that's what happens when you get married to a redhead, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Get ready. Get ready. Got to
Yep.
put a wall of pillows between you. I was
Yeah.
married for 20 years myself, so yeah.
But you know, and what was also another strange thing about it is like, you know, it took about 3 days for the dog to come back, and the dog, man,
Oh, it ran away.
yeah, it was gone for 3 days during this. And it turns out when she did come back, she was covered in mud. It looked like she was hiding in a sinkhole in the pasture, from what I could tell. And the fearless cow dog that she was, that loved to kill, was gone. She
Oh my
was
lord.
she was a nervous wreck for the rest of her life, terrified of everything. You know, it completely changed her personality. And you know, I don't blame her because it did me too. I was
Exactly.
also changed. So I mean, I get it.
Okay.
But yeah, yeah.
Okay, so between 2014 and let's say now, what has there been any type of developments? I know I'm sure after that you said no more of this CE5 stuff. Has there
Oh yeah.
been further developments in this?
Oh yeah, dude. I've seen so
Oh, okay,
many.
all right.
I've seen UFOs. I've seen well, maybe Sasquatch. I've seen Dogman. I've seen shadow people. I've seen
Okay.
all kind of stuff
Could you,
after this
um,
stuff.
not to be salacious, I'm not a person I don't like salacious material. I'll wait till you see my new thumbnails. You might disagree with me, but um, like the dog man, maybe you can get into that a little bit because I'm always interested, and they're not as often as say Sasquatch, Bigfoot, wild men, whatever you want to call them, but they always seem to be very intense.
Yeah, yeah. It was an intense thing, I guess you could say. I mean, the story, or well, not story, but I mean, like the events that led up to it is what makes it very strange for me. Like just the Dogman itself wasn't too big a deal. I mean, it was just on the side of the road sitting there, and it was in my headlights. So I mean, I saw every detail of the thing. But you know, I mean, like that's kind of like a dime a dozen kind of story, really. It was just the events that
Really?
happened beforehand
Okay.
that's strange. Do you want me to get into it though?
Yeah, dude, go for it, dude.
Okay.
Whatever time you have, and whatever you'd like to get into, I'm here for
Yeah.
it, brother.
Okay. So for this was about 3 years ago. So I'm at
Okay.
work. I'm working night shift, and I'd pretty much just stumbled on the topic. So I was kind of like trying to consume as much as I could about it to learn about it because I've had all this other stuff happen, and I'm like, oh, this is something new. Werewolves are a thing. Cool. Let's hear about that. And so I'm listening to like podcasts on the subject, and for the for yeah, about 3 maybe 4 days, at the last break of the night, this dog kept showing up at our work and hanging out with us. Big dog. It I mean, to me it looked like a very large husky or malamute or something like that. I mean that was my frame of reference of what it could be. You
Okay.
know, and we're feeding it, we're petting it. It's very sweet for as big as it is. Um and it's got a collar, and we call the kid that owns it. Apparently, it's some 14-year-old kid running around Arab, Alabama, with like some kind of super edge lord with his wolf dog. Because it turns out it, according to him, is a wolf dog.
It's so interesting too.
And
Just a
uh,
little side note. I'm sorry. You just triggered me. I don't like that word, but you made me spark something in my brain. It's so
sure,
interesting that it's called. Don't take it personal. This is not a religious thing, but it's like Alabama, and then you have Arab Alabama. That's so because I heard a podcast on this as well. The Fertile Crescent being somewhere else could be the Gulf of Mexico. So it's already adding to something else that I've been thinking about. So I'm sorry.
yeah, no,
Sidetrack.
no.
Let's get on back.
It's
It's interesting, right?
it is a neat thing, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, the more interesting thing about this city of Arab is it's got a very large occultic population, like lots of Satanists, Wiccans, just the cults, was just a good way to summarize. I'm not trying to trigger anybody. Do what you want. I don't care.
Okay.
But so that's an interesting aspect about it. Okay. But anyways, this edgy kid's dog is there. The dog doesn't really show me much attention. I patted it a couple times and it was nice, but other people had beef jerky to give it. So,
so that's what it is. There it is. Yeah.
right. But like on like the last night that I saw it, I'm walking out of work to go home and I'm listening to a podcast about Dogman, right? And as I'm walking, I feel a pressure change. And then all of a sudden I hear clickety clackety of claws running on pavement, like fast. So I'm
What do you mean
already
by
like,
pressure change? What do you mean by pressure change? You mean like barometric pressure, or what do you mean?
yeah, that's the best way I know to describe it. My spidey senses went off. I don't know.
Okay.
Like
Like an
how,
energy change. Like an energy change.
yeah, kind of like when when someone's standing behind you, staring at you, you don't
I
see
need
them,
to
you don't
feel
know
it.
that, but you feel them.
Right.
Yeah, it's like that. But also barometrically, it did feel like physical change too. I
Okay.
don't know how to describe it. I'm not words equal hard, man. I'm not good with that. But I hear the claws running quickly, and I'm already on edge. And suffice it to say, Fisher Spam has a little bit of PTSD from his alien experience, right? And all the ones
Okay.
that's happened before this too. So I jump and I turn around in midair and I come down in full martial arts stance, man, because I used to do MMA. I'm ready to try to like not die. I'm like
Right.
ready to throw hands, like let's go. And it was the wolf dog, and she scooted away from me all scared, and I felt bad. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, girl, I'm sorry, come here,
Interesting.
and it come up, I'm petting it, I'm loving on it, I'm like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to scare you, you're such a good dog. If your owner, would take a little better care of you, or if he, if I could, I'd take you home, but I just got a dog, I can't. I got a little child now. She's only like 3 or 4 years old. You're a wolf dog. You might not get along very good with everybody. I wish I could. So I finally get in the car. This thing's trying to get in the car with me, and I'm having to push it out. But I finally close the door, and I'm trying to leave. This thing is running circles around my car and keeps up with me as I'm driving up until about 45 miles an hour.
Holy
And
crap.
I'm feeling awful. Huh?
That's crazy. Like I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties.
That's obvious.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we might have to end this one a little bit quicker, but short. Well, I'm having a little technical difficulties, but okay, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, so this thing's running around you, and you're going up until about 45 miles an hour. It means it was very interested in what you were doing or to be with you.
Yeah. And I'm feeling bad about it, as I'm driving home. I'm still listening to the podcast, mind you. And I'm about 10 miles away from home. And I come up to a house that has a very high fence and have like sheep and goat out there in the pasture.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that there's something underneath the telephone pole there and the light. And I'm slowing down, like, what in the world is that? I'm really looking at it. I'm like, what is that big thing? And as I get up close to it, I've got the high beams on it. It is a dogman, a literal dogman. It's sitting down in the grass. I see every detail of this thing. The fence is 5 feet tall. As it is sitting on its butt, the fence comes to here on it.
Oh,
So I don't know how tall it is.
I'd imagine that's got to be easy 10 feet.
Something. It's got to be big. Now granted, it's not built like all super muscular, not like Hulk smash. No, it's more like a basketball player build is what I would say.
Yes.
Real long snout, disproportionately large head, which I don't know what to think about that. Slight hump on its neck / back that's kind of looks maned almost. And has the only thing that's weird about it is like its ears. Instead of being like sharp, pointy wolf ears, they look like a German Shepherd ears. I don't know what to make of
so
that.
like pointed up, a little rounded at the top, you're saying?
Yeah, kind of round, a little bit, like narrow, then kind of goes a little bit big. Just picture German Shepherd. That's it with the ears, with everything else being wolf or maybe slightly hyena like. But
Oh my God.
I'm like listening to the podcast about this, and I'm screaming at this thing from the car. I'm like, oh my God, I'm listening about you. What is my life right now? How is this possible? Is this a chicken or an egg situation? What is going on? I'm just losing it. I'm not really scared, but I'm like, what is my life? And then as I pass it, it dawned on me the coloration of this thing. It was the exact to a T coloration of the wolf dog. Exact.
Of the dog that was coming up to your shop.
Yes, the one that almost went home with me.
And it was just sitting there, and you drove past it and kept going.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I think it's a very odd way to, I guess, to end the podcast. But like, you have more stories, correct?
Oh yeah, I've got way more stories, man. We just
Okay.
barely touched the iceberg. I got
We're
lots.
just touching the iceberg. That's a good way to start. I mean, you're very, very good at doing this, dude. You're a very well spoken person. I would consider you to be slightly smarter than I am, but we'll see about that in the future. No, you're saying like words like subsequently and stuff like that. Always I'm like, oh, this guy has a quite the extensive vocabulary.
I do pretty good for Alabama, boy. I tell you what.
That's so funny too. I was noticing that too. Like, you speak, you're a very eloquent spoken person. You're a very, you have your own timing, very unique. You're slow, very deliberate. But every once in a while, one of those words will sneak in there, and I'll go, You are from the South, you say. Dude. So yeah, I'll have you on in a little while. Maybe I don't know, a couple weeks, something like that. This is going to probably come out like who knows, beginning, middle September, because I got a backlog all of a sudden. I was like scratching for people to come on, and now like I have a lot of people. I guess they're starting to see the show, and that's why I was telling you. Yeah, I'm kind of backed up right now. And you were like, I don't know, how are we looking for tomorrow? I was like, yeah, I can do one tomorrow. So I'll have you back on in, I don't know, a couple weeks. How's that sound?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, we'll get into some more stuff. Maybe you can kind of send me whatever it is that you want to talk about, and you just go ahead and get that ready, and then we'll go ahead and talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. And
I mean,
that's incredible. I'd love to get into.
It's all committed to pretty much like memory anyway. So I mean, it's just whatever you want to go on.
Sure. Okay. Real quick, this came to me. I know I kind of like try to wind it down, but something just popped in my brain. So when you were talking to these entities in 2014, and they were saying, "Don't mention the name Jesus," what does that make you? What we were kind of preluding to it, or preluding? What do you think that is? What do you think that is? What do you think that entails when they're saying that to you?
I think that it's all one big deception. I think if you want to ultimately get down to it, buddy, I think it's all, you could say ultra terrestrial, as in like multi-dimensional, but to sum it up easily, I think it's all demonic. I don't think there's no such thing as aliens. All the stuff that I've experienced, all the different myriad of things should be impossible. It should be impossible. If I have one Bigfoot experience, wow, that's crazy enough. I have one alien experience, that's crazy enough. But aliens, multiple UFOs, Dogman, multiple shadow figures that touch me physically, that have touched me and left marks
I've been
on
touched.
me.
I've been touched. Yes.
Yeah. And like, it should be statistically impossible. I should have been struck by lightning so many times by now.
Right. I got you, dude.
Unless it's like we all say, that it's all connected.
Or maybe you're marked somehow.
I mean,
somehow, because if this happened to you earlier in life.
But it's the same thing, though. I mean, it's ultimately the same thing. Marked, all connected. It's all the same thing. I'm on their radar is essentially what's going on.
Are you? I don't know if this is a personal question for you, but are you Christian?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
Very much so.
All right. Okay. Cool. So that's the thing that I'm sure you know about now. I'm a believer in God, and it's just a different thing for me. I respect and accept all religions. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I do know that the name Jesus holds a lot of power, especially when it comes to
Mhm.
paranormal situations, people encountering a Bigfoot charge, and they just, Jesus, and it's just, even Martin Grove speaks about it. He had it in his mind, give me the power of Jesus, and he was able to then like
Right.
take his gun and discharge it into the animal or whatever this things are, the demonic entities, as you believe them to be. That's just, it's just, so when they said that to you, that makes me go, that made me suspicious, and that's just very interesting.
Yes.
Damn,
Well,
dude.
because, and it took me a while. It took me a long while to come to that, because I used to be, super hardcore Christian before all this stuff happened. And I decided to, go and have fun and be rebellious. And then this stuff happens and it changed my entire perspective. I'm like, no, no such thing as God. This is all a bunch of alien stuff and yada yada. And then meanwhile, it still keeps happening and happening and happening. And eventually, in my own research on this material, it's like, eventually the subject comes up. You know, there's power in the name of Jesus. There's power in your faith and belief in God when it comes to some of these situations. And it's like, for me, it was like, you know, maybe they're right. Maybe I should be who I used to be and see if this stuff changes for me. And it did. When I finally got my life right, instead of being tormented by these things and having no power when they showed up,
They
when
went
they
away.
showed up one time to come after me and my daughter while we were asleep, I was able to pray to Jesus as I was frozen in sleep paralysis, as this thing was above me and went to go and mess with her. I was able to pray and break free of my sleep paralysis and grab it and yank it off and scream the name of Jesus in this thing's face over and over. And it looked like it was being tormented and then it disappeared. So
Wow.
I know that that is the
All right,
case.
buddy. That's fantastic, dude. That's fantastic. And this interview has been fantastic. A long time coming. And I love the foreshadowing for the next episode that we're going to do, because this is, you're absolutely fantastic at this. It was so easy. You made my quote unquote job, my hobby, my passion easy for me. So I'm definitely going to have you back on.
Yeah.
So is anything you're plugging, or you're just a dude with stories? What's up?
I mean, I'm essentially a dude with stories, but I'm trying to make a podcast type thing
All
for
right.
YouTube eventually. So, I mean, if you just want to
It's a lot of work. Get ready for a
click
second job, dude.
yeah, click on my name and subscribe. I'll eventually have some content out there. So,
All
but
right.
other than that,
So
that's
is
really
is
all
it
I
called
can
Fisher
do.
of Spam? Fisher of Spam on YouTube.
Yeah, just Fisher spam.
All right, man. Great. Thanks once again. Do me a favor, wait in the green room so I can check the recordings. And
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
All right, let's go.
All right, buddy. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
y'all.
Bye. So finally, Fisher of Spam came on. He's always, like I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, he's always coming on and on my lives, and always being very involved in the community. He's a great dude, as you can see. I didn't know him from a hole in the wall, but now I do. He's a great guy. Thanks for coming on, buddy. Yeah, if you keep finding yourself coming back, go ahead and like and subscribe, like I always say. And at the same time, Rumble, all that good stuff. And remember, you are watching the Eye of Jupiter podcast. And remember, we are the Eye, and we are aware. Love you all very much.